The Israeli army attacked Southern Lebanon as part of an offensive that has killed at least 182 people so far. On the eve of the United Nations General Assembly, the Pact for the Future was signed at the UN headquarters. And in Sri Lanka, Anura Kumara Dissanayake was sworn in as the 9th executive president. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Israeli occupation forces killed at least 182 people in new airstrikes against southern Lebanon. Local media reported that occupation troops carried out this Monday new air raids against several Hezbollah resistance military centers as part of the escalation of hostilities. It is one of the most intense air raids in almost a year against the Lebanese resistance movement, which have also left more than 400 wounded. However, Israeli leaders promised harsher actions in the coming days. The Lebanese Ministry of Health warned that the death toll and wounded are mostly women and children, and also affirmed that at least 300 targets, including civilian areas, have been bombed. On Sunday night, the Lebanese Islamic resistance movement Hezbollah has stated that it launched 5 new attacks against military positions located in territories illegally occupied by the Israeli army. Through several communiques, the Shiite militia specified that it attacked the military posts of al-Baghdadi, Mayan Baruch, and radar systems installed in the Sheba farms, Lebanese territory illegally occupied by Israel. Hezbollah declared that its attacks, which caused material damage and injuries, were in response to the Zionist occupation's incursions into southern Lebanon and in solidarity with the Palestinian resistance in Gaza and the West Bank. In this context, the Palestinian government condemned the killing of at least 5 health workers as a result of Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry condemned the constant violations by the Tel Aviv regime of international humanitarian laws which prohibit the targeting of health workers. Over the past 11 months, Israeli troops have killed more than 990 health workers in Gaza, including doctors, specialists, nurses, and paramedics. Occupation forces have also arrested more than 300 others and destroyed numerous hospitals and more than 100 ambulances. The Israeli occupation forces committed a new war crime by attacking another school sheltering displaced persons in the center of the Gaza Strip. On Sunday, army helicopters dropped shellings which hit the upper floor of the Khalid bin al-Walid school in Nuseirat refugee camp. The airstrike killed at least 3 civilians, including a 5-year-old girl, and injured several people. The Israeli troops was quick to justify the aggression by claiming that the school was being used by Hamas as a non-command center. Over 500 educational facilities have been stricken in the Gaza Strip since October 2023, when the Zionist regime waged a genocidal war in the devastated Palestinian enclave.
We heard an explosion and ran, and found the room on fire, and started screaming. And people came. And we entered the room and found something horrific. Mujahid, his wife, and their 5-year-old daughter, all in pieces.
Meanwhile, in New York, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas met with his Yemeni counterpart Rashad Mohammad during Session 79 of the United Nations General Assembly to discuss the situation in the Gaza Strip and ways to improve their relations. During the assembly, the President of Palestine spoke about the latest developments in the Palestinian territories, the Israeli genocide and the occupation violations in the West Bank, including Jerusalem. The President reiterated his position of wanting an end to the aggression, emphasized his jurisdiction in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and Jerusalem, and insisted that he would continue to fulfill his responsibilities. Bilateral relations between the two countries were also discussed with the President of Yemen, along with ways to strengthen and develop them in various fields. And the Syrian government of President Bashar al-Assad issued a general amnesty for all those who have committed crimes and infractions before September 22nd, with a 4-month deadline for disorders. Announced by the Syrian president, this general amnesty of a legislative nature seeks to offer an opportunity for reintegration to those who have violated the laws and includes, in turn, the crimes of escape contemplated in the military penal code. The amnesty is extended to army deserters, both those inside and outside Syrian territory, and they are granted a 4-month period in which to invoke the law and return to the country without fear of retaliation. Certain crimes considered as serious attacks against society and the state are excluded. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On the eve of the United Nations General Assembly, the Pact for the Future was signed at the UN headquarters. The Pact is aimed at reforming global governance. The forum gathered 193 UN member countries to focus on addressing the challenges of today's world. The agreement includes the implementation of at least 60 actions in 5 areas of development in order to adopt a blueprint for the future well-being of the planet. These include tackling issues such as climate change, a financial system reform, peace and security worldwide, and technological challenges facing humanity.
The Pact for the Future must lay the ground for reform. Reform of the outdated United Nations Security Council to make it more effective, but also more representative of what the world is today. Reform of our international financial institutions so that they supercharge resources for sustainable development. And we have no effective global response to emerging, complex, and even existential threats. The climate crisis is destroying lives, devastating communities, and ravaging economies. And we all know the solution: a just phase out of fossil fuels, and yet emissions are still rising. New technologies, including AI, are being developed in a moral and legal vacuum without governance or guardrails.
On the other hand, this Monday is the second day of the United Nations Future Summit, and on Tuesday, the 79th UN General Assembly will be inaugurated, where more than 150 world leaders will meet at headquarters in New York to discuss the commitments of the 2030 Agenda.
And we have no effective global response to emerging, complex, and even existential threats. The climate crisis is destroying lives, devastating communities, and ravaging economies. And we all know the solution: a just phase out of fossil fuels, and yet emissions are still rising. New technologies, including AI, are being developed in a moral and legal vacuum without governance or guardrails.
And we just received this news. The Supreme Court of Justice of Venezuela requests preventive measure of deprivation of liberty against the President of Argentina, Javier Milei. The communique states the Cassation Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice informs the Court of First Instance in control functions of the metropolitan area of Caracas in pursuant of a request made by the Public Prosecutor's Office in September 18, 2024, in which it states we formally request to decree the preventive detention measures based on the investigation followed against the natural persons of the citizens Javier Gerardo Milei in his capacity as President of the Republic of Argentina, Karina Elizabeth Milei in her capacity as General Secretary of the Presidency of the Republic of Argentina, and Patricia Bullrich in her capacity as Minister of Security of the Nation of the Republic of Argentina for the crimes of aggravated theft, legitimization of capital, simulation of punishable acts, illegitimate privation of liberty, illicit interference in the operational security of civil aviation, utilization of the aircraft, and association in accordance with the provisions of the substantive criminal norms agreed as requested. We continue in Bolivia. The Defender of the People's Office made a new call for dialogue in the context of the mobilizations that are heading towards the city of La Paz. The Defender of the People's Office invited the President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, and former President Evo Morales to establish dialogue. The Bolivian authorities also ratified their willingness to meet and avoid confrontations. The government also emphasized that it has already invited Evo Morales on 2 occasions to hold talks to resolve differences between harming the welfare of the people. This occurs after last September 20th, when Arce did not accept Morales' invitation to talk in a march, while the former president was absent from a meeting called by the Bolivian executive at the Ministry of Education headquarters.
Han hablado de guerra civil y de derramamiento de sangre en las calles.
They have spoken of civil war and the shedding of blood in the streets. This expresses intentions that exceed our norms of peaceful coexistence and even conceal a political position of sedition that no government will tolerate. Our government, to this day, has responded to these provocations with a call for dialogue. We have always been convinced that it is still possible to find positive solutions to conflicts despite our differences.
President Arce took the opportunity to reiterate his government's willingness and decision to accept the invitation of the defender of the people.
Pese a todo, este ambiente de confrontación que
Despite the environment of confrontation that has been generated, the government ratifies its decision to summon you and the delegation of those accompanying you, within the framework of mutual respect, to hold a dialogue on the aspects that have already been answered in writing by our government. We accept the summons of the defender of the people. Let's have a dialogue without conditions in the facilities of the defender's office.
Finally, the Bolivian head of state indicated that he will not allow a civil war to take place and that he will rely on compliance with the law to resolve this complicated situation.
no caeremos en ese juego y al contrario,
We will not fall into that game, and on the contrary, we will act as the current legal instruments and the political constitution of the state require us to do. A civil war, as one of your operators says, is precisely what the internal and external enemies of our plurinational state of Bolivia want, to offer it again to imperialism. We will not allow it. For there to be civil war, at least 2 antagonistic fronts are needed, and that is a pleasure we will not give you. Our bet is for peace, and it is possible to conquer it today on the basis of dialogue and rigorous compliance with our current regulations.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found your break, don't go away. Welcome back. Anura Kumara Dissanayake was sworn in as Sri Lanka's 9th executive president before the head of the Supreme Court, Jayantha Jayasuriya, supported by a crowd outside the venue of the event. As part of the ceremony, Dissanayake, also known as AKD, declared his commitment to the nation and the citizens of the South Asian island. The leader and candidate of the National People's Power was elected president of Sri Lanka after a second counting of votes in the elections held last Saturday, with 38 aspirants to the highest office. Dissanayake obtained 42.31% of the ballots counted. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa 32.76%, and former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was seeking re-election, came in third place with 12.27%.
We are inheriting a nation in a deep crisis. This crisis cannot be overcome by a government, a political party, or an individual alone. I am not a conjurer or a magician. I am a common citizen. I have strengths and limitations, things I know and things I don't. However, my priority is to identify capabilities, acquire the knowledge I lack, and make informed decisions to lead this country.
Kumara also expressed during his speech their willingness to work and foster relations with other nations since they are in need of international support.
Our country needs international support. Regardless of the power divisions in the world, we intend to work with other nations to benefit our country. We are not a nation that should be isolated, but one that must move forward collectively with others. We will not hesitate to make the necessary decisions in this regard.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill congratulated Anura Kumara Dissanayake on his election as president of Sri Lanka on Sunday in a message posted on his Telegram channel. The minister said, "We congratulate Anura Kumara Dissanayake after his election as president of Sri Lanka. From Venezuela, we send an embrace of solidarity to the president-elect and his people, ratifying our will to advance in relations of friendship and cooperation for mutual benefit." And September 23rd is International Sign Languages Day, an opportunity to support and protect the linguistic identity and cultural diversity of all deaf people and other sign language users. This date was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in November 2017 in order to raise awareness of the importance of sign languages for the full implementation of the human rights of people with hearing impairment. And in a vibrant final between Asian teams, the North Korean women's national team defeated Japan 1-0 on Sunday in the Colombian city of Bogota to win the Under-20 World Cup. In front of almost 33,000 spectators at the El Campín Stadium, Cho Il-sung sent the ball into the back of the net after 15 minutes. This was the sixth goal scored by the North Korean striker during the tournament, who became recognized by FIFA as the tournament's top scorer and most valuable player. According to specialized media, the North Koreans, who have very little international experience, put a lot of pressure on the Japanese players, especially midfielders Aemu Oyama and Shiomi Koyama. And the International Day Against Sexual Exploitation and Trafficking in Persons has been celebrated since 1999. And the date was promulgated by the Global Conference of the Coalition Against Trafficking in Persons in coordination with the Women's Conference held in Bangladesh in January of that year. It's estimated that 1.8 million people worldwide are victims of crimes related to human trafficking for sexual exploitation, 49% of whom are women and 23% girls, a crime comparable only to drug and arms trafficking. The main objective of this day is to make governments and society aware of the consequences of this atrocious crime that affects the entire world. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.